Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And today's video is very important, not just for me, who's already about to complete my GKS journey, but also for you watching this video and thinking about starting their own GKS journey, studying here in South Korea under Global Korea Scholarship Program. And as mentioned, this one is very important because looking at the long-term goal for you to go here in South Korea, you should be wondering what will you do after the scholarship program, because it has a lot of opportunities and a lot of experiences. And alongside with that is, upon completion of the degree, you have an option to actually stay here in South Korea or go back to your home country. And majority of the people, I mean, those who have their own lives together, from a well-off family, sometimes would decide to go back to their home country and like experience the life they missed for 3 years for master's student and longer for undergrads and PhD. But for those who aim to look for a greener pasture, majority of us would tend to stay here in South Korea and actually look for employment opportunities. That's why in my last video with my friends Don and Arvin, we mentioned about one of the critical things about the process that we need to do if we decide to stay here in South Korea, which is our visa. And in that video, although we're not visa officers and those information are just secondhand information from our friends and the research we've done, it's really hard if you don't really have no idea about what to do next. So at least on that aspect, especially on the visa, we were able to give you some clarification and information of what to do. But for this video, the other side of the coin, which is job hunting here in South Korea. If you think finding job here in South Korea is difficult, you're right. It's difficult, not just for foreigners, but also for Koreans, because the job market is extremely competitive. And if you're a foreigner, it's exponentially getting more difficult, especially the barriers, especially on the language and culture. Even if we're foreigners and we have experienced Korea for 3 years or more, we still have the challenge of the language because we're not on the fluent level. We are on the working or conversational level, but it's different if your fluency is on a native level. And I think as a foreigner, it would take decades of study, immersion to the culture in order to achieve that. But if you only have like 3 years of exposure to the language and you're aiming to work here in South Korea, what are the top recommendations I would give? Well, number one is continue learning the language, continue developing your vocabulary, especially with business vocabulary or like the working business vocabulary, because this is important. And when you go to the job market, to the workplace, you'll be using a lot of these. That's number one. Number two, aside from developing your language or your business vocabulary, you should also be aware of some of the business terms and some of the, well, one second important thing is to know about the ranks. Because in the Korean system, there's a ranking system wherein you should know, when you call a person or you address a person, you use a specific rank to address them. So how do you address the CEO, the vice president of the company, the leaders, the management, the team leaders, the supervisors? There's specific terms for them. And as much as it's hard already to learn the names, you need to learn these ranks as well, because it's disrespectful if you don't use those ranks and then their name properly when you call them or address them in meetings, in paper, in Kakao, and email. So that's number two. Number three is when you're deciding to look for a job, aside from knowing the language and knowing those specific terms about the ranking in Korean business system, it's important for you to have access to different websites. We have a list here of all the websites wherein you can check for Korean companies who are opting for employment and allowing foreigners for employment. And for me, Saramin and Job Korea are two of the best in terms of looking for jobs here in South Korea. But I think as a foreigner, you have to consider that these two websites, the Saramin and Job Korea, are both in Korean language, full Korean language. You can use Google Chrome extension of translation, but in context, you really have to know Korean still. So when you access these two websites, I think it's advisable to probably use a Chrome extension to translate information. And aside from Saramin and Job Korea, you may also look into LinkedIn. There are companies sharing their job openings in LinkedIn as well, international and local companies. The advantage, by the way, of Saramin and Job Korea is like those are the Korean-based companies, so local, international, but majority of them are operating here in South Korea and are Korean-owned companies. So for LinkedIn, at least there are foreign companies there. And if you're looking for part-time job or freelance work, there are a lot of opportunities. You can also search in Albamon. I think that's also a famous part-time job search. And I think Dangon also has one. They have an Alba or part-time feature in Dangon. You should explore that as well because it gives you a localized search, especially for part-time jobs. Albamon and Dangon gives a localized search wherein they provide nearby part-time opportunities for you to check. So if you're wondering if it's really easy to transition from a D student to E or F student, it's actually quite challenging, and sometimes you really have to be, how can I say, be patient. Apply. The more rejections, the more you learn about how to apply here in South Korea. And by the way, the number 4 tip I'm gonna give you is, aside from learning the language, the different terms used in the business, like the ranks, use and access of different websites, you should also follow, there's a Korean resume, 이력서, wherein there's a specific format for you to write your resume. And it's quite different in a sense than the free format of how we use it in the Philippines and internationally, because in Korea, the spaces are quite short for you to explain fully the job description. For example, if you've done a lot of projects, you have to summarize these activities. If you have 10, you have to choose the most critical of them all and then just list those critical projects. But that's how it is. You have to prioritize which project you've done or contribution you've done that would suit to the requirement of the company. That's how they do it in South Korea. Even if you have a lot of responsibilities, there's specific limit on what you can write. And I think I'll be including a link on the Korean resume template. And number 5, aside from following the Korean resume template, there's also a 자기소개서, or the cover letter. It's like a personal statement of purpose of the Global Career Scholarship Program, but it's in Korean, and it has specific guide questions that you need to answer, because like it's divided into different segments. And it's interesting in a way, but I am thankful for different AI tools, translation tools, because I myself can express myself freely and fluently in English. I can use different terms, like terminologies. You construct complex sentences. But in Korean, I'm almost on an elementary school level, probably less than that. So if I'm trying to introduce myself, I tend to use the most basic terms, and somehow it won't make the cut, especially if you're trying to sound as if you're on the professional level, because like business terms tend to sound more professional, especially Korean business terms. So probably that's one thing you take note of. I think those 5 are important when you're looking for jobs here in South Korea. And as we mentioned in the visa part, that's another story, because visa is another complication. But if your job is somehow, good enough in terms of providing assistance with you, because me and my friends, we've decided, like, on our first year in South Korea as a job seeker, we will take whatever job we can, legal job we can, and will not be choosy in a sense, because the conditions now are it's so competitive. Imagine how many students are graduating each year, and for me, even if my grades are fine, I have a lot of competition who are same grades as same grades as what I have, and like with higher um Korean proficiency. So always those people who are greater than you. So what can you do to make yourself stand out? And sometimes even if you are the best candidate, you're not selected because you're the best in terms of the standard requirements, but in the fitness to the responsibility, fitness to the company culture, fitness to the job, you don't make it. So in South Korea, those things also happen. And you have to really, really get persevere, and again, the line of being patient, because I can say that I've applied for like 50 jobs already, and I get interviews, I get my documents reviewed, I get progress in some way or another, I have pending interviews, but it's so difficult to crack that door. But again, if you're already there, you're getting information about what to do, it will start there. Once your foot is on the door, it's there. And I hope we all succeed in the future. And if you have questions, how about life here in South Korea after GKS thoughts, after GKS questions, you may write them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them as fast as I can, because I'm trying to also improve my presence in the other social media account. And this is another promotion I'm trying to create. I will be reviewing 5 personal statements and statements of purpose of 5 applicants once I reach 5,000 subscribers in my TikTok account. And if I'll be able to reach like probably 1,500 here in YouTube, I'll review additional 2 students' essays. So for every 500 followers here in YouTube, I'll review 2 subscribers. So for the 1,500 mark, 2 students will get their personal statement of purpose reviewed. If I'll be able to reach 2,000, I'll add additional 2 students. So probably that would be the promo for it. As if you want to participate on such event, you may write a comment here in this video and type comment why you should be the one selected for that specific promo or specific event, why you should have your essays reviewed, and why it should be you and not the other applicants. And I think that's the limit for this, and I'll be sharing more contents in the next few days, so you better watch those out. And again, bye bye.